8-8, complete the square to rewrite and solve each quadratic equation below. So the first thing we want to do is complete the square. So this is going to be W plus 28 divided by 2 is what, 14 squared. And then we're going to add 14, and then we're going to subtract 196 equals negative 52. And then we get W plus 14 squared equals, we add 196 to, so we get 196 minus 52, and so this is going to be 144. And we take the square root of both sides, take the square root, and then we get W plus 14 equals plus or minus 12, and then subtract 14 from both sides, and we get W equals negative 14 plus or minus 12. And this is going to be W is equal to negative, whoopsie, that's not negative, yeah, actually it is, we'll do negative 14 plus 12, which is going to be negative 2. And then we know that W is going to equal negative 14 minus 12, which is going to be negative 26. So what we did is we completed the square to rewrite and solve each quadratic equation below, and we solved and we got W, the x-intercepts is basically when they say solve the quadratic, that's what we're getting. We got negative 2 and negative 26. Alright, so the next equation here that we have is we want to bring, well, actually we can bring 10 over, so you get x squared plus 5x minus 10 minus 10 is minus 4. And then we want to complete the square, so we get x plus 2.5 squared, so we're adding 2.5 squared, so then we need to subtract 6.25 equals negative 4. And then we want to isolate our perfect square here, so we want to add 6.25 to the other side, and so we get x plus 2.5 equals 4, whoopsie, 6.25 minus 4, and so this is going to be 2.25, and remember that's squared. And so this essentially is in what we call vertex form. We can bring this over, the 2.25 over, but it's just easy to leave it the way it is, and we want to solve. So if we want to solve, we need to take the square root of both sides. And so when we do that, we get x plus 2.5 equals plus or minus the square root of 2.25. And our solution here is going to be x equals negative 2.5 plus or minus the square root of 2.25. This is an exact answer, and if we want to make decimal approximations, which we would want if we needed to graph it, we're going to get negative 2.5 plus the square root of 2.25 equals, so that's negative 1. That's kind of convenient. And then the other solution is going to be negative 2.5 minus the square root of 2.25, and that's negative 4. And so those are our solutions. Alright, now for the next two, C and D, they want us to solve not by completing the square, but they want us to solve the following quadratic equations by factoring and using the zero product property. So that's a little different. So the first thing we have to do is we have to factor. And this problem is kind of convenient because we can factor out a common factor. So we can factor 2x out, and then that's x minus 5 equals 0. And so then at this point we can use the zero product property, and for this statement to be true we could have 2x equals 0, so x equals 0, or we could have x minus 5 equals 0 and we get x equals 5. So our two solutions are x equals 0 and x equals 5. So we can write it this way, or we could say x equals 0, 5. Alright, so now let's look at the last problem. And we want to rewrite it first. We're factoring this, so we want to get everything on one side. 4x squared plus 8x minus 60 equals 0. Hopefully everybody, when you're looking at this quadratic, you can see that, oh, they're all divisible by 4. So then we get 4x squared plus 2x minus, what is that, 4 goes into 15 equals 0. Alright, so then at this point we want to factor it. So we gotta, some of you may be able to factor these in your head, but I'm going to use the method we have, minus 15. And we want factors of negative 15x squared to add up to 2x. So looking at factors of 15, we have 1 times 15, 3 times 5. So 3 and 5 will give me 2, and I want it to be positive, so that's going to be 5x, and that's going to be negative 3x. So 5x times negative 3x gives me the negative 15x squared, and then when I add them, I get the sum of 2x. So this is 5x and negative 3x. So we have 5 goes into negative 15 as well. So we have 5, we have x, and then x, and then negative 3. So our factors are 4 times x minus 3 times x plus 5. Oopsie, that didn't look very good. X plus 5. Oh, I did it again. X plus 5 equals 0. Alright, so now since we factored the 4, 4 is still a factor, but when we're figuring out what our solutions are, we don't have to well, we could multiply it, I guess, to 1, but we can set x minus 3 equals to 0. So x equals three, and then x equals negative, well, let me do the math. X plus 5 equals 0, so x equals negative 5. And so our solutions are 3 and negative 5.